It's been almost 2 weeks since Crypto Bull Society has dropped, and it has been going off. The price floor is currently sitting at 2.85. It's a 7,777 project, and its mint price was 0.22. So when we jump over onto Nansen, we can see here that it's been 12 days since it's been deployed, so we're almost at that 2-week mark. Now what we can see here is that there was huge volume on the first day, as you would get with the drop. It then tapered off. Then what happened is it seemed to pick up again. Now what I like here is that with a project with the average price flat with volume dropping, it's good because when volume comes back in, it pumps back up. Now we have seen a little bit of a retrace with the average price from so essentially 4 ETH down to 3 ETH. So there has been a retracement of around that 1 ETH. But this day has just opened, so we need to see where the close is, so it could actually close higher. Having a look at the price range, with the average price, you can see it just moving up, which does kind of relate with the average price and volume. But with the minimum price, we can see it has been kind of bouncing around quite a bit, which means that you could have actually picked up quite a deal on some of these other days. Now look, real quick, the tool that I am using is Nansen. I've got a link to a tutorial up there. It is long and this is a paid software, but I find it very helpful when analyzing projects because it's got a lot of data points. Anyway, back into it. Having a look at the individual transactions, we can see that it is very clumped and it's still following the average price that we can kind of see and a little bit of that pullback here. Now, when we have a look at the top balances, it is quite evenly distributed. The top owner 55, then 54, and then it goes down to around 13. And so this is where the top 20 is essentially rounding out. Now, I think this is a decent distribution. It always worries me when someone has like sort of 200 or 300 of a particular project because it shows that there's a whale and they could kind of dump on the market if they wanted to. It'd actually hurt them, but it's nice when there's somewhat of a nice distribution. If we bump across, we can see there are quite a lot of holders that have sort of more than 4. So there are essentially 150 people that are holding more than 4, which means that there could be a lot of people slowly layering out when it comes down to the project and kind of capping off the price. When we get to the top balances over time, this is the kind of chart that you want to see. Everyone is just adding more and accumulating more when it comes down to the project, and then they're holding strong. This has been essentially a week of just holding strong, so it shows that they really want to hold on to this project, and I do believe that this is because of the drop of the bear that will be essentially like the free companion when it comes down to this project. So I do believe that that would be kind of playing into this holding a little bit more. Now, when we get down to the unique addresses, we can see that 88% of the addresses have held for more than a week. So these are essentially long-term holders when it comes down to this project. And having a look at the addresses for the distribution, there is the 4,700 owners of the 7,777, which is a very good distribution. It's above that 50% mark, which is very healthy, which is what I like to see. It is kind of dipping off a little bit, but this kind of makes sense when it comes down to the top holders. Essentially, people are in the project and they're accumulating more when they're in that project. Now, when it comes down to the percentage holding one NFT, we're currently sitting at around 60%. Now, this is a good and healthy number. It's what I like to see when it comes down to the project. Now, when it comes down to the balance of the diamond hands, we can see that it's slowly tapering off. Now, this makes perfect sense because there is somewhat of a meteoric rise when it comes down to the floor price. So I can see that the holders are kind of offloading 1 or 2 to just recoup their costs, not necessarily exit the project because there are lots of people that are holding more than 1. Now, when it comes down to the profit leaderboard, this is what I say with a healthy profit leaderboard with some runway. We can see here that the top profit taker, 33, then we get 25, and then essentially rounding out the top 20, we get to around 8 ETH. This is what I usually would see within a project. So when a project doesn't have top profit takers, within that sort of 20 to 30 mark, it feels like the project has a little bit more to run up. I'm not saying that the project is over, but it feels like the people have taken some profits and we've kind of hit a plateau or an equilibrium where people have taken some profits and there are some good profit taking. What I will say is it means that there will be some of these holders down here and the people that haven't sold, which will be able to kind of come up and get closer to this 20 to 30 ETH mark. So it shows that there are some holders that have taken some nice profits, and that some profits could be taken by some other people. Now, when it comes down to the top 5 buying addresses, we can see the entry points of some of these top holders. And we can see here that it's sitting around that 1 to 2.5 ETH mark for a big majority, but there is a bit of a clump around the 8th of December, so a couple of days ago, where it's kind of, where we had that run up and they've kind of essentially FOMO'd in and got a little bit more. With where the price floor is currently sitting, all of these top holders are essentially in profit territory. So this is very healthy when it comes down to those buys, but it does mean that they could be in a position to liquidate some of their holdings to recoup some of their costs, because they are sitting in profit territory right now. Having a look at the recent transactions, we can see the volume slowing down. Usually on a project that's moving very fast, we will see sort of lots of trades when it comes down to an hour, but you're kind of seeing 10 trades over a 4-hour period. So with around 10 trades over a 4-hour period, it does mean that the price floor does have potential to kind of start slowing down and dropping off a little bit. When you have a look at OpenSea, we can see here there's 1,000 buy nows, which does mean that the price floor can be kind of dropped quite fast if there is an influx of sellers and people just wanting to essentially take some profits. So why do I think that Crypto Bull Society has had a bit of this run up? There are 2 factors that I believe that it kind of had a good healthy rise, and it's sitting quite high. The first one is the artist, Gal Yusuf. Now, his last drop with Steve Aoki sold for $214,000. So the fact that there is an established artist that was kind of putting this together, it then helps move that project and helps garner some of the attention. Now, the other aspect, and I'm a huge fan of this, is the fact that the mint price was 0.22 ETH each. Now, the reason that I really like this higher sale price is it essentially gets rid of the smaller people within the space. So the kids that have sort of maybe 0.1 or 0.2 ETH max, they're not going to be able to afford this project, because I feel that someone that has 0.1 or 0.2 ETH and that's all they've got, they need to be very careful with what they're doing. They're buying a project for 0.05 to see if they can flip it for 0.1. When we get to larger projects that have a larger sort of mint price, you're dealing with people that have a little bit more ETH to kind of play around with. And sure, there will be people that want to kind of flip it and kind of run that up. But I feel like they're less likely to kind of paper hands and sell if they're not seeing the gains, because they've been around the traps before, because they know that they can run up a project and they know that it can take weeks or months to really kind of get that going. So that is another aspect that comes down to something that I kind of see as a green flag when it comes down to a project, which is a high mint price, because you're then commanding a bunch of people that can actually afford to kind of hold on to it for a little bit longer. So it's for those 2 reasons that I feel like we've seen this big run up. The other aspect is they are going to be doing the crypto bull at the 6 to 8 week mark. So I do believe that once that does happen, the price will drop. Now, an estimate here is I believe that we will see a halving of the floor price when we get to a drop of the bears. Now, the reason that I say that the floor price will drop is the way that I like to analyze this is that if you've got one project sitting at 1 ETH and then you're given another free aspect, those combined will come to around that 1 ETH mark, which means that this may drop to sort of 0.75 or 0.5 ETH, and this will then sell for the essentially 0.5 or 0.25 ETH, but combined, they will be at about that price when that companion or airdrop was essentially sent. Now, this isn't 100% always the case, but this is a pattern that I'm noticing when it comes down to companion drops and things moving forward, because there are more sort of supply to be sent out and the demand is reduced because the supply has increased, and then people sort of start laddering in their sales and then they can then move out of it. So that is something that I believe will happen when we get to the bears. So if you are interested in this project, I would wait to see what happens with the bears before buying into the project. but that is just my interpretation of the data and what I have currently seen. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. You really should do your own research when it comes down to it and look at past projects that have had these types of drops come up afterwards and see how they play out and see if that actually fits in with your risk tolerances. So overall, I hope you found value in this video. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really does help out with the algorithm. It also helps out with me knowing what kind of content you like so I can keep producing it to ensure that you're actually getting value out of it. As always, it's been a pleasure having you with me. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.